Hi guys, how are you doing today? Welcome back to Random Lifestyle Vlog. If you're new here, my name is Paulina. This channel is all about beauty, and today we're going to talk about an eyeshadow palette by Charlotte Tilbury. So this is her new Pillow Talk Beautyverse Love palette. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like from the back. And let me just take it out of the box for you. This is the packaging. It is pretty stunning, I would say, but I have to admit Charlotte Tilbury is pretty good at presentation in general. So we have this stunning new Beautyverse Love palette. Last year she released this original Beautyverse palette, and as you can see, the packaging is just as stunning. So we're obviously going to compare these palettes quickly to see how similar or different they are. So let's have a look at the shades. So there you go, this is our Beautyverse Love palette. As you can see, we have 5 mattes here, like the whole top row, and these 2 shades are mattes. This is a topper, and then we have 3 metallic shades. So let's just quickly introduce the shades. The mattes are in Future Matte formulation. This one over here is Futuristic Pink, Cyber Rose, Supernova Smolder. This one here is Virtual Romance, and this is Offline. Then we have our topper. This is Pillow Talk Beautyverse Party Topper. And then our metallics in Crystal Glow formula. This one here is Pixie Pink, Rose Gold Realm, and the last one here is Digital Pink. Okay, let's do a quick comparison. So this is our new Beautyverse Love palette, and this is the Beautyverse palette from last year. What do you think? They are quite different, aren't they? This year's palette is definitely much darker and also a little bit like less sparkly. So here's the last year's Beautyverse palette up close. As you can see, it only has 4 mattes, these 3 up here and this one over here. There is a topper here, and then we have 4 metallic shades. So more metallics definitely make this palette much sparklier. The mattes here are nicely balanced, but they're not too dark, not too dramatic. Whereas this one over here is much more intense. We have 2 like really dark, almost like dramatic shades. Even the metallics in this palette are quite deep. So generally speaking, even though both of these palettes are in this kind of like Pillow Talk pinkish realm, they're giving me a completely different vibe. So let's go ahead and do some swatches. Alright, so the first thing I noticed already is that these mattes have this very kind of like satin-like finish. So let's start with our Futuristic Pink. Well, that's a really good pigmentation. Then we have Cyber Rose and Supernova Smolder, Virtual Romance and Offline. And now we have our Party Topper. Okay, for a topper, this actually has quite a lot of pigmentation, I have to admit. So far, I'm actually quite impressed with the swatches. Like, everything swatched beautifully. But as you can see, so far we have this pretty dramatic, intense vibe. So we have 3 more metallics to swatch. Pixie Pink, Rose Gold Realm, and then last but not least, Digital Pink. Oh, wow. I mean, I am actually very impressed with how these swatches. I mean, look how even the swatches are. And you know what? The swatches are very rarely that even. Like, usually there is a difference in formula between metallics and matte. So obviously these tend to swatch quite differently. Sometimes we have these proper like glittery shades. They have like chunks of glitter inside, so that will swatch differently too. Sometimes we have a little bit of like a quality difference between a specific shade. But here, I mean, I'm quite impressed with how nice these swatches look, how even they look. And like everything swatched so beautifully, even those metallics. I can't believe how pigmented these are. But with that being said, this definitely looks pretty dark as a palette. This is not the palette I'll probably use for my everyday makeup. I think this is more of a, you know, party look. Okay, so swatches done, we compared the palettes. I think it's time for me to try it on my face. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so I'm back with one eye finished. This is what it looks like. Just like I expected, this is definitely more of a nighttime kind of palette, at least for me. Anyway, let's recreate that on the other eye. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to tell you what I think about this palette. By the way, I actually managed to use every single shade in this palette, which is also a good thing because that means that all these shades go really well together and it's pretty easy, even though it's quite dramatic. It's pretty easy to create a really nice makeup with it. So I actually started with this shade over here, which is Supernova Smolder. It's swatched lighter than this shade. So I started with this one over here and I applied it in my outer corner. As you can see, it is pretty pigmented already, so definitely one of these palettes you need to be, I mean, you don't really have to be that careful because these shades blend really nicely. So even if you apply a little bit too much, it's pretty easy to blend it out to like something more reasonable. Next up, I used this Cyber Rose one here, and I applied it in my inner corner. Kind of connected these shades in my crease here. See, it's all very pigmented, but also when you're looking at these two shades together, as you can see, they are very complementary. So it is pretty easy to create a makeup look with these shades because however you're going to place them, it should look alright. Next up, I used this futuristic pink, and I applied a little bit of this shade in my outer corner to build this color up a little bit more. And as you can see, all these shades are in this kind of like a pinkish, brownish tones, very pillow talk. Just going to blend out the edges a little bit. Next up, our darkest shade, Offline. I used this shade to trace my lower lash line. And I did the same thing with my upper lash line. So I'm literally just tracing my lash line here. And I'm building it up a little bit in the corner. Now, Virtual Romance, the last of our matte shades. I'm using it to work on this like outer corner a little bit more. I'm building the depth here. And as you can see, it is really lovely pigmented, very easy to blend. I mean, I'm really impressed with the quality. And I'm using the same shade to blend out this lower lash line a little bit. Okay, time for metallics. I started with this digital pink. I was actually trying to initially apply it with a brush, so that's what I'm going to do. I had this kind of like a flat brush and I tried to apply it in this outer corner, and this actually has a lot of pigmentation. So you can apply it with your brush if you just want to intensify the color, but if you want to get more sparkle out of this shade, I would just still go ahead and use my fingertip. This way you're just going to make this shade a little bit sparklier. So whichever works for you better, you can apply it using your brush or your fingertip. For more sparkle, fingertip works a little bit better, at least in my case. Now our Pixie Pink, and I'm applying it all over my eyelid. I'm only skipping this outer part because I already applied this digital pink metallic shade on it already. So as you can see, we've got all the sparkle now. Alright, so I've got one more metallic shade to use. This is the Rose Gold Realm over here, and I kind of didn't know what to do with that, but I really wanted to try it, so I decided to apply it along my lower lash line just to add a little bit more sparkle here. And when applied with brush, it's giving me some color and a little bit of sparkle, nothing too over the top, but I think it actually looks pretty good like that. Okay, so we're almost done. Our last shade is the Topper. I applied it all over my eyelid to add a little bit more sparkle, and as you can see, this seems to be the perfect product for it's kind of like an ultra sparkle look. I'm also going to apply a little bit of this Party Topper in my inner corner here. And voila, I'm going to do my lashes and my eyeliner off camera, and I'll be back with my final thoughts. Alright, so I'm back with my finished makeup and my final thoughts. So I have to admit I'm actually quite impressed with this palette, and I'm so happy to be able to say that, because when it comes to Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadows, especially her quads, they can be a little bit hit or miss. So whenever I'm getting a Charlotte Tilbury palette, I'm like, I really hope it's going to be good. And this one, it is so good. It is very consistent, like all the shades have a very similar formula. So the swatches, I mean, I don't remember a palette that swatched that nicely. I mean, if I were to name a palette that swatched that well and that kind of consistently, I would probably have a problem to find one like from the top of my head. So yeah, quality wise, this is a really beautiful palette. The shades are very pretty too. It is definitely much more of a nighttime version of her beauty palette. I think it's going to look beautiful on deeper skin tones too. I really like it. I think the only problem you can encounter with this palette is that it might be actually a little bit too dark for some skin tones or some preferences. But I think if you're looking for something a little bit more dramatic, this is definitely worth the money. I like this one a lot. Okay guys, so these are my thoughts, but what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching. For more makeup related content, check those videos over here. I'm going to see you very soon. Take care. Bye.